first at MagRack. And now, classic cars.
Okay, I've heard about ice fishing, but ice helicopters, ice golf, ice swimming? Why not? Because at the Lake George Winter Carnival in upstate New York, it's all about ice. And when there's fun to be had on a frozen lake, there's bound to be ice racing. Ah, the deep north. You gotta love them. While most of the country is paralyzed at the thought of driving on ice, these guys embrace it head on. For some, it's about aerodynamics and making friction your friend. For others, it's seeing how close you can get without touching. And for some, it's, oh, yikes, ouch. So chill out, Mr. Heat Miser. Grab your woolies and hop on in. We're riding through the slick and snowy world of ice racers.
Driving on the ice in a car like mine is a full body experience. You're going fast, things are coming by you, you can't see, you're getting hit in the face with ice chips and slush, and it's just a full total body experience. On really cold days, your toes are freezing, but you don't think about it till the checkered flag falls. It's really cool.
So now you've met Dave Burnham, president of the Adirondack Motor Enthusiast Club in upstate New York. This weekend, his club's holding its biggest ice racing event of the year during the last weekend of the Lake George Winter Carnival. It's one of about 8 racing events held on different lakes in the region from January through March. Every week, a new course and pit area are carved onto the ice by plowers who volunteer their time. No two courses are ever the same. They range from a mile to 1.6 and have all the fun Indy-style straightaway, hairpin lefts, right chicanes, and so on. Keeping it all organized is Dave. But Dave does have a day job, fixing rare citrons at his home in upstate New York. Citrons haven't really been widely imported into the U.S. since '73, so you wouldn't think it's a growth industry. But hey, not many people know how to fix them, and he seems to have a lot on his plate, so why not? It's not surprising Dave's home-built ice racer has Citron roots. It's based on the old Citron SM, which was built in collaboration with Maserati back in the '70s. It's got a Maserati 3-liter V6 engine that puts out 240 horsepower. Major components like the drive axle, transmission, and brakes are all Citron. Everything else is tubular chassis. Dave drives in the A-Class, the fastest and most modified group on the ice. Dave usually brings out another Citron for friends to race, an orange 66 that's been chopped and shortened. Dave might be president of the club, and he held the championship for a decade and a half, but lately a young upstart's shaken up the standings. With his powerful V8 modified dirt track car, driver Matt DiLorenzo's been the consistent point leader for the last year and a half. Lately, Dave's been running a consistent second place.
I kind of look at myself as being the new guy. He's been the champion for 14 years, whatever, and I've been winning lately. It's kind of like getting him to think and making him work harder and go faster.
Young Matt doesn't have the look of a weathered veteran, but don't be fooled. He's been racing dirt track for over a decade, and he's one of the few guys out here who races year-round. He knows how to work the sponsors, and a lot of the time and money that goes into the summer series is brought onto the ice. While money's always important, air is free, and Matt knows how to use that too. Aside from the wing up top, he's got airfoils down the back and a few other aerodynamic secrets up his sleeve. Up in the A-Class, it's usually Dave and Matt out front, but not far behind is another open-wheel speedster, Eric Roscoe. Eric drives a modified dune buggy with an old Chenworth racing chassis. It's rear-wheel drive and with a 2.3-liter air-cooled Volkswagen 4-cylinder spitting out about 190 horses. That doesn't sound like much, but it's a pretty good kick on a little 1,200-pound body. Eric doesn't have the power of Dave's 6-cylinder or Matt's big V8, but in the corners he's pretty much unmatched. Just watch him hug this hairpin. It's hard to believe that cars can corner like this on ice, but a closer look at the tires reveals the secret.
This is a ice racing tire that we use. It's a tubeless tire. These studs are molded right into the rubber. They got like a washer on the back side of them. This tire has about a season on it, and what happens is the studs get loose, and if you see here, this is where the tires wear. The rubber wears away because you're going around the corner. The tire tends to fold over that way.
And Matt's tires probably fold a little more than the average pair. Rear-wheel drive with a 570 horsepower V8 gives those little metal studs a workout. But now, if you're starting to think that using metal-studded tires is kind of cheating the elements, you'll be happy to know that there's a class that doesn't use them at all. In the street legal class, you just drive your car to the lake, and if it's less than 3,200 pounds, all you need is a helmet. In street legal, you can get close, but no touching. You gotta drive this car to work on Monday, not to mention getting home tonight, so this is a non-contact class. Though they're not nearly as fast as the Menard tire cars, they are extreme in their own way. They're pushing 90 miles an hour on the straightaway with street-legal snow tires on ice without any real added protection or roll cages. So on-track etiquette is key, and drivers that don't have the right temperament are quickly shown the door.
You learn a lot about people when you race with them because it directly reflects what kind of a person they are. You know, I mean, if they're a jerk in real life, they'll probably be a jerk on the track.
So for the most part, the street legal class is pretty much jerk-free. Hitting turns like this in a crowd without touching is a pretty impressive display of driving skill. From a distance, the drivers look pretty controlled, but sometimes a closer look tells a different story.
It's good to have an open-faced helmet because you can read a person's expression. You know if he's under control or not. Has he got the oh shit look? Or has he got the yeah, I'm right where I want to be look, you know?
While bumping might be off limits in the street legal event, the Menard tire classes are a different ball game. The class above street legal is the D class, which generally runs anything less than a 2-liter engine. As you move up the ladder through C and B classes, the cars get more highly modified and the engines get bigger. One thing they all have in common is a roll cage. They also have something else in common. As we look around, we notice body panels that are bashed, mashed, and otherwise downright wrinkled. Some look like they're held together with duct tape. As the weekend goes on, we begin to realize that ice racing's definitely more of a contact sport than a beauty contest. One of the faster cars in the D class is an 87 Escort GT. The spray-painted black 53 car is driven by a teacher from Schenectady named Graham Jones. Graham put in a little bit of motor work, some chassis mods, a roll cage, and the old junker's taken on new life. Graham's Escort is the perfect example of getting a competitive little racer without a lot of cash, although he still takes a ribbing for his not-so-colorful exterior.
Paint doesn't make it go fast. It's the other stuff underneath that makes it go fast. So it may be ugly, but it's fast, and that's all that counts.
There's no reason to make it pretty if you're likely to have a date with a snowbank. It seems that unless you're in the street legal or up in the open wheel A class, then you'd better consider your ice racer a beater-upper. And today, one of the most beat-up of the beater-uppers also happens to be one of the most unique. A lot of people don't know this, but at one time Volvo actually made a sports car. The body was stamped in England and stuck onto a Volvo station wagon chassis. The result was the 1800. You don't see them much anymore, and you probably didn't expect to see one on the ice. But Richard Graham brings his out every race.
I'm in the pest control business, so for me, I have nothing to do in the winter. Done the skiing, skidoos. I love getting in a car and having some kind of competition up there.
And why not? At about just a $35 entrance fee for the day, it's about the best bang for the buck in all motorsports. And for speed freaks like Richard, it's about the biggest thrill you can get on a midwinter's weekend. Or maybe the second biggest thrill.
Most fun I've ever had with my clothes on? Can I say that on TV?
We think you can, Richard, although these days you never know. Anyway, we'll take your word for it. By the way, Richard's Volvo isn't the only Swede on the ice. There's a small Saab contingent led by two brothers, Claude and Dana Hutchings. They drive the old Saab 912 turbos, which were exported to the U.S. for only 2 years in the 80s. Claude drives the faster 00 car. Dana's number 84 car doesn't have quite the performance, but he holds his own. The two Saabs are actually in different classes, but it's hard to contain the sibling rivalry, so they always manage to race each other anyway.
The cars are pretty close. The cars are pretty close horsepower-wise. If for some reason I'm in front of him on the start or something, I'll kind of let him. There's no sense of holding him up. I'll let him go by. He's hard to pass.
The 912's intercooled turbo likes it cold, so the weather today isn't exactly working to their advantage. Not to mention the softer ice from the late February sun is starting to get them bogged down.
We do not have close ratio transmissions in these cars. They just don't make them. So you got to come out of a corner in third gear and you're getting a lot of slush. It's like driving in sand on a beach. You just die.
Saabs used to be the car to drive, but over the years their numbers dropped as lighter, cheaper Volkswagen Rabbits and Golfs took over the ice. While they no longer seem to dominate the ice racing circuit, they're still the toughest cars on the lake, and that can come in handy, particularly when those snowbanks get hard. Something that this little 1994 Del Sol knows all about. The sporty little blue Honda is another car you probably wouldn't expect to see on the ice, but with a few modifications, the double overhead cam VTEC 1.6 gives it some kick. It's driver Pat Stringer's only second year on the ice, and already his car is showing some serious wear and tear.
It's the wrinkle effect I have going here. This car was actually almost flawless at the beginning of last year, the body. That will show you what a rookie year will do in ice racing.
And speaking of rookies, on every race weekend, there's an opportunity for new drivers to take a shot on the ice. After all of the classes have raced once, there's one race that's open to new drivers. Veteran drivers bring a friend that they approve and trust with their car and then hand over the keys. Right now we're in the backseat of a Rabbit driven by Adam Burrows. Adam's got plenty of summertime racing experience, but hasn't been on ice before, at least not on purpose. Coming down the straightaway, Adam shows his racing experience, going from last all the way to the middle of the pack. But then he heads into the hairpin a little bit fast. Oh, yikes! I'm pretty sure that was the snowbank, although it's kind of hard to tell. Well, Adam, you're an ice racing virgin no more.
I think I might have blacked out for a moment, actually. It was pretty jarring. I'm probably going to have a pretty sore shoulder in the morning. So.
Left a mark on the car, too, but by all accounts, probably not the first.
The good thing about the car this morning is that it was pretty banged up to start with, so you can't really tell what I did and what was already there, so it's kind of a nice rental.
Nice rental indeed, but I doubt you're going to see Avis or Hertz volunteering their cars here. Not surprisingly, most of the action happens around the spot Adam caught the snowbank, at the hairpin that arrives on the heel of the straightaway. But it's not the only place. Pay close attention to the rearview mirror at the top of the screen. I guess if a car loses control, it's best if it happens behind you. If a car is in trouble, then a caution flag comes out until the plows can clear the road. Sometimes a car just needs to be pulled off a bank. Sometimes it needs a little more help. Dave is definitely going to be working on that Citron on Monday. While contact isn't encouraged by the club, it's pretty tough to rule out. Cars are going fast and they're on ice. Sometimes it's just unavoidable. Ooh, don't think the camera likes getting hit. Because of their weight, model, engine placement, or whether they're front or rear wheel drive, different cars are just gonna corner differently on ice. And when drivers take corners on different lines, like Richard's old Volvo and a Volkswagen Rabbit, then there's always a chance that at some point they're going to meet up. Ooh, just a kiss. No harm, no foul. Occasionally, a car will even get in trouble when it's all by itself. Case in point, this little D-Class yellow and blue Rabbit. Hey, you forgot your tire. Right here, you can really get a feel for what it's like hitting a corner in a crowd on ice. Now imagine doing this in a total whiteout. By all accounts, today is about as good as it gets in terms of visibility, which is pretty hard to believe looking at this footage. During most races, cold and wind mean you're practically driving blind.
You put 20 cars, even the street legal with the small studs, they kick up so much microscopic shards of ice at minus 10 degrees that it becomes a white fog. Total whiteout conditions.
But on a weekend like this, when the temperature gets up to the upper 30s, whiteout conditions are replaced by water. It's all right when you're out front. But if you're Dave in your open-air Citron and you're stuck behind fast Matt DiLorenzo, then you're gonna be getting wet.
I have on my glove like a motorcycle wiper. So anytime I get hit, I wipe my visor immediately. I also just Rain-X'd my helmet, so stuff that hits it comes off. That's why A-Class is kind of a full body experience.
We decided we wanted to check out this experience for ourselves, even if not the full body variety. In charge of our little tour de lake was Byron Seyfried in his D-Class Honda Civic.
Comfortable?
Actually, no. Barreling down a straightaway 80 miles an hour on a sheet of ice is pretty unnerving, especially with that hairpin turn coming up. Whoa!
Oh, this is nothing. I'm not even going that hard yet. You get used to it. Just slide, that's all.
Just sliding, huh? Tell that to this guy. But we got to admit it's a pretty cool feeling, and snowbanks are a lot less intimidating than guardrails or Jersey walls. In the second street legal race of the day, the snowbanks got a little workout. Maybe because it was one of the last races of the year, or maybe the conditions were getting a little sloppy. But for some reason, the street legal drivers seemed a little more zealous the second time around. Ouch! Even Dave Fazzino, who's known for his drive control skills, got up close and personal with a snowbank. Hey, all-wheel drive, no problem. All the enthusiasm of the street legal race seemed to carry over to the grand finale, the last race of the day, where all the Menard class cars A through D class take to the ice at the same time. Because of the sheer number of cars, the finale's the wildest race of the day. Off the bat, the fastest cars leave the rest of the fray behind. Soon, the race falls into a familiar order. Matt DiLorenzo gets out front. Dave's right on his tail, followed by Eric Roscoe in the old blue dune buggy. Behind them comes Hutchings Saab contingent, the Escort, the Del Sol, so on down the line. The grand finale's got a reputation for getting wild, and this one was no disappointment. At the hairpin, the action's thick. One of the first casualties is Richard Graham, who gets elbowed to the outside and gets up on a bank. His old Volvo's picked up a few more wrinkles today, but somehow we get the feeling he'll be back. After all, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
If you're scared, people don't come back. You just can do it or you can't.
And Matt and Dave can certainly do it. Like most finale races, the open-wheeled speedsters lap the other cars 3 times. Like most of the races lately, Matt DiLorenzo holds the lead. But his car's not up to its usual performance, and Dave's sticking tight, stalking him closely from behind, lap after lap. Then, in a crowded S-turn, Dave makes his move. Soon, the veteran in the yellow Citron leads the pack, and this time he intends to hold it through the checkered flag. Matt's got more horses, but this time Dave's got the better car. Just like old times, Dave's king of the ice once again. Matt'll be out to get him next time, but for now, the track belongs to Dave, and victory is his to savor, even if only for a day. But somehow we get the feeling that all this is less about winning or losing than it is about squeezing a little fun out of a long, hard winter.
You get in the wind and the cold and the water and the slush and everything hitting you in the face, and it's fun.
Racing's a disease, you know, it's just, you want to go faster and faster and faster. And, you know, I started out in a car like this, and now I'm here. You just keep wanting to go faster and faster.
And someday you're going to be old, and you're going to pass away, and you're not going to be young and fast. So enjoy it while you're young and fast.
Classic Cars takes you back to when fins were in and legends ruled the road. If you like classic cars, put the pedal to the metal with your next car. Whether you're looking to buy or just like to look, you'll find your dream ride here.
That's a cool car.
Or check out Motorcycle Freedom. Take a spin on bikes made for cruising and bikes made for bruising. It's adrenaline on 2 wheels.
It's all just a brotherhood, man.
Whatever you're into, you'll find it on MagRack, your passions on demand.